Hi, I'm Nikki Flynn, and I decided to try BookFox's first 20 pages hook. I'm going to do that this time with Wanting Fangs, a Modern Gothic Romance. So since I am going to be talking about one of my books that's already been published, that does include spoilers. If you don't want to be spoiled, you can listen to the first few chapters or read them. The links are in the comments. So I'm actually a fan of dead dove warnings, content warnings for most normal people. Um, and the dead dove for Wanting Fangs is violence, descriptions of gore and injuries, drug use, alcohol use, swearing, sexual situations, suggestive dialogue, an evil printer, blood drinking, and biting kinks. So you can go ahead and pause this, get an idea of my writing style, and this is the first couple of paragraphs in chapter 1. So his first step is to bond with the MC, and Yvette and Sebastian are both treated as main characters, but Yvette gets a little bit more screen time. I mean, she was bored and decided, let's go on an adventure and check out this internet rumor. And I mean, mood? She thinks everything about the place is gorgeous and awesome and like the coolest thing ever. And this is, a castle that was plopped down in the middle of a place where there really shouldn't be a castle historically. And she's horrified at seeing the dying vampire, and she tries to help. And while she's running, she does regret wearing jeans, but she didn't exactly foresee herself running. She didn't really think this through entirely. I think all relatable. So the next step would be show off the MC. And this is where you actually give an idea of not just their personality, but their skill set. And some of that is going to be for her, uh, like her recklessness slash courage that gets showed off, as well as a little bit of her smarts and her her appreciation of the arts and literature. Even though she doesn't really use her smarts all the time, she has them. And she does risk revealing her presence to the assassin, who could have turned around and attacked her at any point while she was running toward the victim of his attack, which turns out to be Sebastian, the vampire who lives in the castle. And then she checks to see if the vampire is still alive, removes several silver stakes from his body, and it shows her stomach for gross situations and her care for others, even if she is a bit on the foolhardy side. And then she lets the vampire drink her blood to save his life, and she does not know him at all. This is their first time meeting, and she just accepts all the risks involved in that, including the possibility of her death. Then you would establish the norm, then violate it. I don't think these are necessarily in any order, but you have to show the point of why is this story taking place? Why is this not just another day? She's bored, so she decides to go on an adventure. She marvels at the castle's features, which is vastly different from where she lives, which is contrasted in, I think it's chapter 3 or 4. And his children are normally around, but he's divorced and the children are visiting their mother when the assassin attacks. And she lives commission check to commission check until she moves into the castle to be his live-in bodyguard. So, teasing the reader with the draws of the genre. This is a romantasy, which is portmanteau of fantasy and romance. Castle, check. Medieval attire, that is what the assassin is wearing. Check. Intrepid and reckless MC, check. Romance. Castle, check. Intrepid and reckless MC, check. Suggestive positioning, she straddles him so he can feed off of her, so I would say yes. Forced intimacy, once again, the feeding off of her. He's drinking blood from her neck, check. Starting the inner journey is what would be in Save the Cat, the hinting of change, the MC being open to change, and them actually starting some manner of an emotional journey. So she's bored. She goes out and risks her life to chance glimpsing a vampire, and in this universe they're known to exist, but they happen to be pretty rare. It's like she also notes that the vampire is supposed to be cruel, merciless, have hellhounds on the property, be violent, and yet she still goes. She's still just that unhappy and unattached to anybody or anything, really. So she runs toward danger, again, showing her recklessness. And she offers her neck to a vampire she doesn't know. This would normally be pretty late in, like, Truby's, like, his actual breaking down of master storytelling in the Visit to Death, because she could possibly have died herself, and Sebastian almost dies as to why she's feeding him in the first place. So, introducing the antagonist, and you'll note that I will use this in any presentation that involves romance, mentioning Truby, and that is a picture of Yvette and Sebastian that I commissioned. So she encounters the assassin fleeing while she's exploring the castle, and the assassin is one of the antagonists. There are, I don't remember an exact number, probably 18 assassins throughout. And I'd already mentioned the Truby bit. It's like for romance, the opposing force is their love interest or love interests, because if they weren't opposing forces, they would already be in a relationship. So they're not quite antagonists, but they are opposites. They're sometimes going to be parallel characters and sometimes intersecting characters. So, and also, as I mentioned, they meet each other, and that all gets established in the first, I think, like 12 pages, not even the full 20. So every work out there should have a major defining question, aside from maybe some short stories where the writer's just having fun, or some sort of experimental piece of literature. This one has a couple of defining questions, and they are mirrors of each other for this one. What's worth living for? What's worth dying for? Yvette risks her life to save Sebastian technically several times in the first chapter or two. And he fought super hard to not die because he didn't want his children actually finding his dead body. So his kids are why he lives, and like boredom and unattachment to anything and anybody is why Yvette risks dying. So threaten the downside, and this varies depending on the work. In this particular work, I had already started the hinting at Sebastian's downside, but Yvette will return to her boring life without the astonishing castle, its vampire resident. She has a fetish and develops an attraction to him very early, like her crush is super obvious in like chapter 2 or 3. She hates her living situation completely, and as I've said several times, she has no real worldly attachments to anybody or anything. Therefore, she is much more open to risk that other people her age might not be. And then Sebastian's children are like his sole reason for anything. He loves them so much, and he really does not want his half vampire children learning that their father was murdered and spending their eternity knowing that, especially if he's right and his ex-wife, their mother, is behind the assassination. So, if any and all of this appeals to you, give me a read. One of my narrators has done the first 3 chapters for me for Wanting Fangs, a Modern Gothic Romance as an audiobook. Links are in the description, and thank you for your time.